Hello guys, my name is Kaimana Kane and today I'm going to be giving you a book review on what were the Roaring Twenties. But before we get into today's book review, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Songs. If you ever find yourself in Ensenada, Mexico, you want to check out this place, they have great merchandise and great drinks. They also don't check your ID and I may have not snuck in a little drink or two. So back to our book review, what were the Roaring Twenties? So Charles Lindbergh flew across the Atlantic Ocean, which was a huge feat at that time. Everyone was going crazy about it, and you might have known about Amelia Earhart, but that's not included in this book review. But Amelia Earhart did something similar to Charles Lindbergh, also flew across this Atlantic Ocean, but she was a woman and Charles Lindbergh was a man. But this book really didn't include, it included a lot of events, but most of it just included a lot of kind of facts about the place, or facts about what was happening, about who created, say the man, the wife of the man who stood on top of a flagpole for 100 hours straight. I mean, he sat on top of the flagpole, not stood, because that'd be crazy. But after all, it's called the Roaring Twenties. So, as if the wife of the man who stood on top of the flagpole for 100 hours straight, had two sons, one named Jimmy and one named Thomas. But that's not true. But it just included a lot of stuff like that. But aside from the huge concert about a jazz concert, there was a bookstore named Borders across from the street, but sadly it got robbed by a bunch of thieves, so that's just a lot of wind, just don't mind that. But it was just a lot of stuff like this. This era was also known as the Jazz Age because, jazz was kind of the theme, the groove of what the Roaring Twenties were. I mean, everyone was listening to jazz, everyone was making jazz, everyone went to concerts about jazz, everybody read about jazz. So that's also why the era was known about the Jazz Age, but sadly, not everything about the Roaring Twenties were good. Some things, like the flu, 675,000 people lost their lives. It was a true time of sorrow, but just still a true time of happiness. This era was a bunch of people dancing, everybody going to dances, and it was just a really fun time until the 1929 stock market brought the good times to an end. But I'm not going to talk about that until the end of this book review. So in 1921, everything turned around. In August 18, 1920, women could take a greater part in voting. So if you haven't already checked out my other book reviews, Susan B. Anthony, she fought until she died to make women have the ability to vote in presidential polls, presidential votes, and just some random things like a school president election. I mean, Susan B. Anthony really did work hard, but after this book review, you may want to check out that book review. It's pretty good, and I totally recommend it to you guys. It's also very interesting, and this book is too. So, that's a lot of stuff this thing talked about. It talked about most band players, a lot of famous bands, such as I'm blanking on the name right now, but you can find it in here because, as you know, it's the Jazz Age. But there was lots of dancing, and I mean, it didn't really include a lot about this book, as I already told you. It was the corner book across the street has been terribly taken by a bunch of thieves and stuff like that. So that's why this book review is going to be a little short, unlike the other ones. So there are also crazy fads like dancing parade. People dance for a whole day with trumpets, drums, saxophones, because a saxophone was one of the basic jazz instruments. But aside from the point, there was just a lot of dancing, a whole lunch of dancing, a whole bunch of sitting on top of flagpoles for 100 hours straight, and there's a whole bunch of stock markets going to the stock market crash. But that's to the end of the book review. But the Roaring Twenties, well, it didn't really have a lot about the Roaring Twenties in this book, but it also has some bibliography at the end, so you can check out more about the Roaring Twenties books if you're interested. But I seriously do recommend this book. It gives you a lot of information, and I'm not going to include it all, so you guys actually, don't have a spoiler alert in this book review. But the Roaring Twenties, well, is a crazy thing, and, but sadly, stock market brought it to the end, and well, that was the end of the Roaring Twenties, and there's a bunch of bands, there's a bunch of playing, you get like playing the saxophone, playing the drums, playing the trumpet, but there's also this thing where people brought things to an extremely high and extremely dangerous level, like eating a whole buffet of food within like an hour, and like dancing for 100 hours straight, and someone actually did that while eating food, which is actually dangerous. But I guess people didn't know a lot about what they were doing at that time, but at least they learn now. But as already mentioned a few times, the 1929 stock market brought the good times to an end. It was good warning for people not to get all crazy, because like as you can see, these two couples are having so much fun in the cover, but at least it told them a time to stop within 10 years. So that's why it's called the Roaring Twenties, because it was roaring in excitement, it was roaring in entertainment, it was roaring in jazz musicians, jazz bands, dancing, sitting on top of a flagpole, which they mentioned a whole lot about it. They're like, it's like they have this axle on the top where you pass a rope through it. Basically, you pull one thing on the end, and the other has a really stable, like, wood platform where you could put water, food, like books to read. But the funny thing about it was that people could watch him, and well, if you hadn't known, but it was a comedian, so as you could already tell, the people had a great time in the Roaring Twenties until the stock market brought it to an end. So I'm going to show you the bibliography and some photos, but let's just see the photos. And these are flowers left by the star Rudolph Valentino and artist Romer Bearden, who inspired the Harlem Renaissance in 1979. So there's some other stuff that you could already learn by the past 2 pages, and I already forgot to mention there was a lot of movies, and well, they weren't exactly the best movies. They weren't like Home Alone as they are these days. They were like The Great Adventures of Mary L. Home or something. But aside from the point, it was just a really good time for some people. But sadly, the 1929 stock market brought the good times to the end. And again, huge thanks to our sponsor, Husongs. If you ever find yourself in Ensenada, Mexico, you want to really check them out. They have really good merchandise, and as you can see, I already bought some. I may have not gotten a little addicted. But also they have great drinks. Don't ask me how I found out till I didn't test it out for myself. But they don't check your ID. But there's a lot of stuff. As you can see, I didn't read the image like caption, so I don't know what that was, but hopefully you guys know. And this is Alvin's shipwreck that he purchased on a flagpole. He would have sat down. In this picture, he was standing up because you wouldn't be able to stand up for like 100 hours. But you saw the bibliography, and here's the timeline of the Roaring Twenties and the timeline of the world. So aside from the point, I really like this book review. 7 out of 10. Not my most favorite, but not my most hated. Here's my opinions about it. just don't include like about talking about one thing and getting really into it, such as the Alvin Shipwreck who perched on a flagpole for 100 hours straight, or like the bookstore across the concert was robbed by a bunch of bandits, as I already used that scenario a few times in this book review. But it's actually like, it included a lot of stuff in there, such as like, as you can see, like a big golden palace, and that's why this book review is short. Like Clara Bow, 1905-1965. I don't even know who she was. But aside from the point, I really like this book. Not my favorite, not my least favorite, but I hope you guys, this is your favorite. Really wishes this is well, all of these books are your favorite, because I really just want you viewers to have a good time enjoying this content. And aside from the point, I hope you like my book review. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And comment if you have any questions. I'll try and find the answers in this book or any other book. I have it all up there. You probably can't see it right now, but any questions, just ask me. I'm your host, Kaimana Kane. Tell them who sent you. Kaimana Kane sent you.